All right, so we are back, and what we're going to do is we're going to tie up another jig with the stretch tubing in it. I've got a 16th ounce freestyle jig head and vise, number 4 sickle hook. We're going to do like we always do. We're going to put a layer of glue down. We're going to wrap it. We're going to put in our material for our tail. Maybe a little bit of flash. I'm not sure yet, but I'm pretty sure we're going to do this jig with marabou. We got a red eye, chartreuse head, so we're going to incorporate those colors into this jig. It's not hard. It's easy to do. The stretch tubing, there's tons of places to get the stretch tubing. Plateau Flash Shop has it. You can get a lot of it off of Amazon, and I will show you what it looks like. When you get it from Amazon, it comes in a row like that. It's very thin. But by the time you've put your tail material in there and you've wrapped it up with your thread and you've kind of got that built up, and you can run a few extra passes in there with your thread, this is going to be plenty to cover that jig up. What you do want to do, what I do, is match the thread to the color of the stretch tubing you're using. So if you're going to be using the blue stretch tubing, be using blue thread on that. Kind of comes through a little bit better. And they also make it in clear. You can take that clear and you can put down, you can tie down some really bright flash underneath that clear and wrap it in that clear and come out with something that's a little more sparkly. You could also take the clear and you can color it yourself with the marker and come out with whatever color you want. One of the later videos we might end up doing that. I'll show you how that works. But like I said, we're going to start out tying this one. We're going to go with marabou. We're going to put our hairline dubbing hardest whole head cement down, or Sally Hansen's, whichever you have, whichever you prefer. I think they kind of both got a good quality. They both kind of got a bad quality. There's a little bit of good in both, and good and bad in both of them. Just your preference. I've only got red in unithread. It's kind of thin, but it's going to work. We're going to tie it. We're going to get it nice and secure. So obviously, since I'm using the red base, I'm going to be using the red stretch tubing. So we're going to give this jig a really good coat of the red thread on this. And we are going to put down the chartreuse marabou first, and we're going to try to cover it up with red. We're going to wipe all that excess paint. That powder paint that gets on the hook will come off very easily, will melt extremely easy with the hairline dubbing or the Sally Hansen's. It'll both melt. But we're going to put in a piece of, we're going to tie in one single piece of red flash, and I cut it kind of long. We're just going to trim it off. And we're going to try to run it right along the bottom of that hook shank. Now see, right here would be a good example, like if you was going to use the clear stretch tubing, you could go over top that and you'd get that little bit of clear, a little bit of red shining through that clear. Okay, next we're going to take our chartreuse marabou feathers. We're going to go with the feathers right here on the tip. I'm going to separate that out. We'll go with it like that right there. That's what I want on the back of that. So we're going to pull that out. Cut that off. Cut off all of our long strands. And we're going to make sure there's nothing left to fall out. That's about what I got when I tie on my marabou. One right there. So we're going to start right there, and you notice it's kind of crazy around the top of that hook. But it'll all tie in. That marabou ties in extremely easy. Just going to wrap it just to make sure we're going the right way with it. And I kind of like the way it's laying, so that's what we're going to go with. Just come back up and start catching down all the rest of those little fibers. If I would have had a little bit heavier thread, we could have covered that a whole lot easier, but we're going to want a little bit of a buildup on that base, on that body shank of that hook for that stretch tubing. So it's not really going to be a big deal if we've kind of overfilled it anyway. So we're going to take a red marabou feather, come all the way out. These hip up here on the top, those are the ones you're going to want to be using. I like the little sharp points on them. So we're going to separate out just about as much as we did with that chartreuse. Kind of got quite the same. Well, yeah, I kind of like that. It's going to be just a little bit less than that chartreuse. Gonna pull it down some, make a good spot to cut. We're going to cut it off. Marabou's kind of like bucktail. Go a little less at first. You can always add to it. Sometimes getting those fibers wet right there when you want to first start kind of help you get it kind of lined out. It's not going all over the place when you do it that way. But I'm pretty sure we got room there to add just a little bit more red on that side. You can see how it's kind of open right there. I'll cover that up. So like I said, you can always add to it. That's what we end up having to do on this one. Not always do you get that perfect cut, but you get over time that you can kind of feel between your fingers that you've got enough. Let's trim all that off. Let's put that in right there on the side. Then we're going to take it out of the jig and make sure all of our feathers are laying the way we want them to. It's all nice and clean, straightened out. I got red on both sides, and I got chartreuse showing right underneath in the midsection of it. We'll rotate it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's all red up here on the top. It's all chartreuse down there underneath. So let's catch that. Let's wrap that all the way back up. Right to the tip of the hook point. And let's go back up. All right, so we are going to be using the red stretch tubing. And this is from Wapsi. This wasn't the Amazon brand. I do have some back here from Amazon, but I've got this one here already open. That's why we're going to use it. And we're going to kind of do it just like we do our Chanel. We're going to lay right on top of the shank of that hook. And we're going to get it tied in. Do a couple wraps right there at the tip of it. Let's work it all the way down. I'm not pulling overly tight because, like I said, I only had a thin thread in red, so that's kind of what we're going to use. Get your bobbin down here, and I'm going to pull off maybe 11, 12 inches, something like that, just to make it a little bit easier to work with. Set that back up there, and then we are going to use, I'm going to use Loctite super glue. Not a big fan of super glue, but I kind of trust it a little bit more with the stretch tubing. And we're just going to barely even put any on there. This is the gel, and what I was after was the one with the brush. That's the only one I could been able to find, so that's the one we're using. And we're going to wrap it. We're going to keep all those wraps right beside each other. We're going to put a coat of UV resin on it after we get this wrapped on. So it's not really all that important that all the wraps are perfectly right beside each other, because when you get done with that UV resin is going to make it look, it's going to fill it all in, and that UV resin being clear, it's going to look just like the stretch tubing. You're never going to know. And one thing I have learned with the stretch tubing is that you can cut it with your thread if you're not careful. So we're not pulling it super tight, but we're just kind of pushing it back up against that head. It's where a really small pair of scissors is going to come in really handy right here to clip that neck. And we're going to get our whip finish tool and whip finish it just exactly like if you was putting on Chanel. And I'm gonna build it up here a little bit just to give that neck a taper look. I'll pull it out and we're gonna cut it. Right there, we're gonna get our UV resin. And this is Solar Ease, this is the thick formula. And what I really prefer to do is get a really good, I put it on pretty thick. I'm gonna put it on pretty thick and then I'm just gonna let it roll. And I'm gonna let that drip roll from that side back over to that side. I'm gonna let gravity kind of do the work on that. But I wanna make sure I got it up against that head and got it sealed. Then that way that stretch tubing and that head kind of become one. It kind of joins it together. I believe we got it. So we're going to hit it just a little bit with the UV light. I'm not going to stand here and hold the UV light on it for very long. But we're going to get it set up to where that drip stops. It don't take long to set it up. It takes a little bit longer to cure it, but it'll set up kind of quick. If you hit it with the UV light, it'll stop. You get that run going where you want it to and you get it all evened out. Nail it with that UV light for a few seconds and that'll make it stop. And then that way you can do whatever else you need to with it. I usually take a pair of hemostats, clip it onto the shank of the hook, and I put it underneath one of those fingernail lamps and let it sit in there while I tie the next 1 or 2 jigs, and then I just keep swapping them back and forth, swapping them out. But we'll take it out and show you what we got in. The body almost comes out looking like a piece of Jolly Rancher candy. But that's it. That's how I put on the stretch tubing. And I've been playing with it quite a bit, and the more I use it, the more I like it. And it comes in, like I said, you get that pack on Amazon like this. And I can't think if that was the name that I found on Amazon, but it comes in a pack of 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty sure it's a pack of 10, every color under the rainbow, including black. But that's exactly what we was after. And like I said, I'll show you how much I use the stretch tubing. I had a order of other ones going out this morning, and there's stretch tubing underneath that resin. And you can see it just kind of makes it look like one solid body if you're using the exact same color. Comes out really slick, comes out really neat looking. But that body right there on that will outlast the Chanel. It will last 10 times longer than the Chanel will. That is something, especially if you're going to tie bluegill jigs that comes in such small diameter, that is a really good body to use for that. But that is all I got. Got any comments, let me know. I'll remind me about it. I'll post a link up to how I got that off Amazon, or I'll post a link up to the fly shop. Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget, hit that thumbs up button, and we will keep working with the stretch tubing. And the more I learn about it, the more I'll keep posting. I've been playing with mixing colors. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's rows of chartreuse underneath that red. So I've been playing around with it quite a bit, trying to learn as much as I can about it. But it is a very, very unique material to have in your jig tying arsenal. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, hit that bell, send me a message, comments, and I will get back with you. Thank you guys, I appreciate it, and we will see you next time.